He lived in a 1970 single-wide mobile home, sold hot dogs from a cart for $50 a pop, and his dream was simple upgrade to a double-wide. Steve Smiley came to play for $2 million, but the banker had other plans, involving 500 Wieners and a whole lot of chaos on the studio floor. Steve Smiley was exactly the kind of person this show was built for. He wasn't a celebrity, he wasn't rich, he wasn't flashy. He was a trucker and shipper by trade, 16 years hauling pet food across the country in an 18-wheeler. He was married to Kim, his wife of 18 years, 2 months, and 26 days. She kept the exact count, and the audience loved her for it. He had 2 beautiful daughters who were sitting in the front row beaming with pride. And his hobby, the thing that made Steve Smiley light up more than anything else on earth, was his hot dog cart. He sold hot dogs to people on the street, not because it was lucrative. He made about $50 a pop and freely admitted he probably gave away more wieners than he sold, but because of the camaraderie, the interaction, the joy of standing on a corner with a cart, feeding strangers, cracking jokes, and watching people smile while they ate. He was in it for the people, not the profit. He lived in a 1970 single-wide mobile home, and when Howie asked what he would do if he won big tonight, Steve's answer was one of the most honest and endearing things anyone had ever said on the show. He would upgrade to a double-wide. Not a mansion, not a beachfront property, not a sports car, a double-wide mobile home. Howie asked him again, just to make sure he heard correctly, if you won $1 million, you'd stay in a mobile home? Yes, Steve said, grinning ear to ear, just a bigger one. The audience was completely, utterly charmed. But tonight wasn't just any night. This was a special episode. The top prize had been doubled to $2 million. History could be made. 2 contestants had already won $1 million this season, and now someone had a shot at doubling it. Steve had been dreaming about his case for weeks number 22. His brothers and sisters' shared birthday. Crystal brought it forward, and the game that would define the Wiener King's legacy began. Round 1 asked Steve to open 6 cases, and it was a baptism by fire. Case 1 went first, and the result was immediate and devastating. $1 million amount was eliminated right out of the gate. The audience gasped. On a normal night, losing the $1 million in the first pick would be a death sentence for the entire game. But tonight wasn't normal. With the doubled format still in play, Steve's ceiling was still astronomically high. The $1 million was gone, but the $2 million dream wasn't dead yet. Case 26 followed, Lindsay opened it. The result sparked joy among the audience. Case 9 was next, and the hits kept coming. Each case that opened seemed to carry bad news, and the studio was getting quieter with every reveal. Case 16 brought Lisa to the stage, and the result was manageable. Case 19 and Case 4, Kelty's case closed out the round. It was an objectively rough opening 6 picks. Multiple large amounts had vanished, and the board was significantly thinner than anyone had hoped when the night began. But here's the thing. $400,000 remained at the top of the board, standing completely alone like a lighthouse in a storm. That single amount could buy Steve 4 double-wide mobile homes and still leave money in the bank. The banker's first offer was $10,000. Steve didn't need long to think about it. $10,000 wasn't life-changing for anyone, let alone a man staring at $400,000 still on the board. No deal. Round 2 brought 5 cases and a real opportunity to stabilize the game. Case 5 went first, a clean, small result that gave the studio permission to breathe again. Case 10 followed with Alex's case. The board shifted slightly, but nothing catastrophic happened. Case 14 brought a manageable outcome that kept the $400,000 safe. Case 15 was next, and Steve launched into his penny chant, penny, 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 penny.
Penny, 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 penny.
The case didn't have the penny, but it was a reasonable result. Case 6 was the final case of the round, but the $400,000 survived. It was still there, still glowing, still representing everything Steve had ever dreamed of. The banker revealed he was a fellow hot dog enthusiast and teased Steve with the expression, "You are what you sell." Steve took it in stride. "Okay, that's okay. I know that." The offer was $41,000. Before deciding, Howie brought out the supporters. Steve's daughter came forward first, a beautiful, beaming girl who clearly adored her father. Then came Steve Benedetto, a friend of 25 years, and the man who got Steve started in the hot dog business. He delivered the pun of the night, Steve's on a roll. And finally, Kim, the wife, who had been counting the days of their marriage with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker, she said she was here to win some money with her husband. The family was united, and the decision was clear. 41,000 was a lot of hot dogs, but Steve felt the bad numbers were out and the good ones were coming. No deal. Now let me ask you, with 400,000 still on the board and the small amounts yet to be cleared, would you take 41,000 guaranteed, or would you trust your gut and keep going? Round 3, 4 cases. Case 23 and Case 25 went first, clearing reasonable amounts. Case 13 brought another result that didn't cause panic. But then Case 17, the last of the round, hit a nerve. A significant amount disappeared, and the board was starting to look less friendly with every round. $300,000 was now the mountain that Steve needed to climb. The banker dropped the offer to $32,000, down from $41,000. The board was reflecting the damage, but Steve could still see that $300,000 sitting at the top of the board. And that number represented a lifetime of hot dog sales compressed into a single moment. No deal. $300,000 was still in play. Round 4, 3 cases. Case 12, Case 24, and Case 2. The results cleared several amounts from the board, reshuffling the landscape with every pick. The $300,000 survived all 3 cases. And then the banker decided to have some truly spectacular fun. The kind of moment that only Deal or No Deal could produce. He declared himself a fellow hot dog aficionado and announced that he wanted to personally support Steve's small business. What came next was pure, beautiful, absurd chaos. 500 hot dogs were sent rolling down the ramp from the banker's booth in boxes, bags, and loose bundles, covering the studio floor in an unstoppable avalanche of processed meat, actual hot dogs. Howie was trying to walk and nearly went down 3 separate times. On top of the mountain of meat, the banker offered $64,000. Steve looked at the hot dogs, looked at the board, and declared himself the Wiener King. Nobody does that to the Wiener King, he announced. Nobody. No deal. Round 5, 2 cases. The studio floor was still covered in hot dogs as Steve tried to navigate his way to the podium. Case 20 went first, the $300,000 survived. Then Case 3, and again, the big number held. The board was now stripped down to just a handful of cases, with $300,000 standing as the clear target. The banker offered $68,000, the highest offer of the night. This is where the family dynamics became the real show. Kim, his wife of 18 years, 2 months and 26 days, looked at her husband and delivered the speech she had clearly been holding in all night. "You have worked really hard all your life," she said. "Really think about this. Stop listening to him pointing at their friend Benedetto, who had been encouraging Steve to push forward all game." Their daughter said, "Go one more time, just one more." Benedetto pointed at the board and rattled off the remaining cases, arguing that the small ones were easy pickings. No deal. $300,000 was still in play. Steve picked Case 18, the number of years they'd been married, in a beautiful nod to Kim, even as he was about to ignore her advice. The result knocked out a mid-range amount. The banker dropped the offer to $60,000. 1 case left to open. The $300,000 was still alive, but dangerously exposed. If it disappeared, the offer would plummet into the basement. Think about this for a second. $60,000 guaranteed. Or one more case with $300,000 alive but only one wrong pick away from disaster. What would you do? Kim made her final plea. "Please listen to me for one time," she begged. Steve's response was instant and perfectly delivered. He'd never listened to her before, so why would he start now? But the joke landed with warmth, and everyone could see the deep love between them. Even Kim cracked a smile through her exasperation. Their daughter was torn this time. She wanted the $300,000 but was terrified of losing it. The friend said, "One more time." Kim said, "Stop." And for the first time in the entire game, Steve Smiley listened to his wife. And he said, "Deal." $60,000. The reveal was the cherry on top of the most entertaining hot dog-covered game in Deal or No Deal history. Steve's case number 22, the number he'd been dreaming about for weeks, held just $750. He had sold a $750 case for $60,000 plus 500 hot dogs. Sometimes the best deals aren't about millions, they're about knowing exactly who you are and being perfectly happy with a double wide. So here's my question. Would you have taken the $60,000 or would you have kept going for the $300? And more importantly, would you have listened to your wife? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. See you in the next one.